Hello. Well, it's October, and I thought I would be doing some more Halloween type themed, horror themed games, but uh, my older daughter was in town this past weekend and we played this game, Jamaica. Jamaica, man! Anyway, so it's a pretty quick, easy game, so I just thought I'd do a video on this one. So let's get with let's start with how you set up. Alright, well, first thing you do is place the board in the middle of the table. And you'll take these 12 treasure cards, shuffle them, and randomly select 9. Put the other 3 unseen back in the box. The 9 that you choose will go here on the right side of the navigation box on the game board. And you'll take the combat dice and place it here on the fortress. Each player chooses a color and places his ship in Port Royal, facing this direction. The resources are sorted by type and placed near the board. The game box comes with an insert that holds the different resources, your food, your doubloons, and your gunpowder. So I just like to leave mine in the box, but you can take it out and put it in piles near the board, however you want to do. Next, you'll take these treasure tokens and place 1 on each of these islands with a skull. There should be 9. Alright. Then each player receives a board that represents the 5 holds of their ships. And you can kind of see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in there, so each player receives one of those. I'm setting up a 3-player game, so each player has one. Each player will get the deck of cards in their color, shuffle them, and put them above the right side of their hold board. So I've got that for the red and the yellow as well. Each player will take 3 food tokens and 3 doubloons and put them in separate holds in his player board, so that each player has that, 3 food and 3 doubloons. Each player will draw the top 3 cards from his deck, and you hold them in your hand like this. This will be your hand of cards. For me, I'm going to just have to kind of set them down up above the player board, but normally you keep them in your hand. So I've got my hand of cards for blue, hand of cards for red, hand of cards for yellow. Again, if you're playing with other players and not solo, you keep those in your hand hidden from the other players. One player is selected at random to be the first player and is given this compass token. I'll just, as usual, make that my blue player. And your first player will also take the 2 action dice. And that's it. You're set up and ready to play Jamaica. So let's go over how the game plays. Alright, well, the game is played in rounds, and so at the beginning of each round, the player that is the captain, or the player that has the compass, which is the first player at the beginning of the game, will roll the action dice, and then he's going to decide 1 dice that's going to be the morning dice and 1 dice that's going to be the evening dice, and put them in the corresponding box. The morning dice here and the evening dice here. Now he'll decide that by looking at his hand of cards. The icon on the left is going to be the action that's going to be done on your morning action, and the icon on the right is what's going to be done on your evening action. So the captain will decide which one of those actions he wants to do, and in the morning and which one he wants to do in the evening, and put the dice accordingly. So let's talk about what the different actions on the cards are. Well, a symbol like this is a loading symbol, so that means you would load gunpowder depending on the number. So if say the captain decided he wanted to place the dice like this, so the number 1 is in the morning action and the number 5 is in the evening action. So if he chose this card, he would load 1 gunpowder into a hold on his ship, just 1, because that's his morning action, and then his evening action he would load 5 gold doubloons into the hold of his ship. And the other possible loading action that you might have is food, in which case you would load the corresponding amount of food. So in this case, in the morning action, since the morning die is set to 1, you would load 1 food into the cargo hold of your ship. Now, the rules for a loading action is, so for instance, we have the morning die, say we're going to load 1 gunpowder in our ship. The rules for loading action is it must be loaded into, whatever you are loading must be loaded into an empty hold space on your ship. So in this case I could put it here. If you don't have an empty space, if they're all filled, then you have to remove, empty out one hold to replace it with the item that you're going to load. And you can't empty out the same type of item as what you're loading. So for instance, if my hold was all filled like this and I took this action where I had to load 1 gunpowder, I've got to empty one of my holds to load this gunpowder. I cannot empty the one that contains the same type of item that I'm going to load. So I would either have to empty this one of these holds with gold or with food. So in this case, since this one only has 1 gold doubloon in it and this one has 3, I'd rather empty the one that just has 1. So I would load the one I've got to load, and then the one you had to remove just goes back into this stock. If in the odd scenario where all your holds were filled with the same type of item as what you're trying to load, then you just wouldn't load that item or items. Alright, the other type of action you might have a card on a card as seen here is a movement. So a green arrow is a forward movement and a red arrow is a backwards movement. So if the captain had chosen this card, he probably wouldn't have placed the dice in this manner, because he would move forward 1 space and then he would move backwards 5 spaces, because his morning action is the 1 and his evening action is the 5. So if he was going to do that, he probably would have placed the dice like this, where he would then move forward 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then wherever you land, you have to take the appropriate action. So when you land on a space that's a port action that has one of these pins with a number in it, you're in a port and you have to pay that amount of gold. So he would then have to pay 3 gold. Luckily, in our example, he has 3 gold he can take out of a hold, pay to the bank. Then for his evening action, he has to go backwards 1. So he would go backwards 1. And here he's landed on a treasure space. So he could remove this treasure token so that that treasure can't be gained again. Then he would draw 1 treasure card from the treasure pile, and he could look at it and put it in his area. Now in this case, this treasure happens to be an extra hold space for his ship. But there's different kinds of treasures, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Now that the treasure token has been removed from this space, players can still land there, and it's basically a free space but there's no more, nobody could draw a treasure card when they land on that space. So we should talk about some of the other spaces on the board. These spaces with white cubes on them, if you land on one of those spaces, you have to pay that amount of food from your hold. So for instance, here, if you landed here, you'd have to pay two amount of food from your hold, and this one you'd have to pay 3. If you ever land on a space, a port space or a food space, where you cannot pay the amount shown, for instance, if we'll just say the red player landed here and he's got to pay 4 food. Well, he's only got 3 food, so he can't, and he's got no other food on his ship. So he can't pay the full amount. So whenever you can't pay the full amount, you pay what you can. So he would have to pay this 3 food to the bank, and then you have to go backwards until the next space where you can afford to pay. So he goes back there. Well, he can't afford that because now he has no food. He goes back here. That costs 5 gold. Well, he can't pay that because he's only got 3 gold. He'd go back here. That costs 3 gold. He does have 3 gold, so he would have to pay that. And then that's where he would stop. And now, in this case, his hold is empty. So, again, when you can't pay for a space, you pay what you can, and then you go backwards until you get to a space where you can pay. Of course, you can always stop if you get to a free space because they have no cost. And hopefully maybe they'll have a treasure icon. If not, you don't get to draw treasure, but at least it's a free space. If a ship ever lands where another ship is, before you resolve, any food payment or port payment you have there, you have to do a combat. So the player moving into that space is the attacker. The player that was already in that space is the defender. So the attacker decides if they want to spend any gunpowder tokens to use to add to their attack score. So in this case, yellow, he's only got 1, or she's only got 1. So she'll say, yeah, I'm going to spend 1. Then she'll take the combat die that's here and roll it. And whatever you get that, you add the number of gunpowder tokens you spent. So yellow would have a total of 9. Now at that point, the defender, red, would determine if they want to spend any gunpowder tokens. So we'll say in this case, yes, he has 2 and he wants to spend both of them. So he's going to roll 2, and then he'll roll the dice. And he got 8, so he got a total of 10, which beats yellow. So in this case, the defender would actually have won that combat. So whoever wins the combat has a choice of 3 different things. They can steal the contents of one hold from the loser. So, he could choose he's going to take the contents of this hold to take these doubloons and add them into his hold. Now, all the usual hold loading rules apply. So you have to put it into an empty hold or replace what's in a hold that you already have, and it can't be a hold that has the same item that you're loading. So all those rules still apply when you steal as a combat reward when you take what's in somebody's hold. So that's one of the options you can do, steal the items from one of their holds. Another option you can do is take a treasure. If they have a treasure, 1 or more treasure cards, you can take one of those cards. Now if they have some of those cards face down, then you can't look at them first. You can just randomly take one. But if they have one face up, maybe like this extra hold space, and you know what that is, you could take that one, or you could randomly take one that they have face down, but you can't look at them first. So that's the other option you can do. And finally, instead of stealing a treasure card from the person you defeated, the final thing is you can give them a treasure card. Well, why would you want to give somebody a treasure card? Well, some treasure cards like this one are cursed, and it's worth -4 points at the end. So if you had picked that up and you had it face down and you won the battle, well, you obviously want to get rid of that before the end of the game so you could give that treasure card to the opponent you defeated, and then they have that face down -4 points. So those are the things that you can do when you win a battle. Now, a couple other points about battle. If you are the attacker and you roll this starburst or star, then the defender just automatically loses. They don't even get a chance to try to defend. The attacker just automatically wins. If the attacker rolled and got something else and the defender rolls the star, then they automatically win. So again, if the attacker rolls it, the defender doesn't even get a chance to roll. The attacker just wins. If the attacker rolled something other than the star, then the defender does get a chance to roll. And if they roll the star, then they just win. Now, if you've spent gunpowder tokens, they're still lost. You've spent them and they go back to the supply no matter what you rolled. If you decided to, because you always choose whether you're going to spend gunpowder tokens before you actually roll the attack dice. Let's just talk briefly about a few of the other type of treasure tokens you can, or treasure cards you can get if you pick up a treasure. There's this one, this type, which will give you positive points at the end of the game. So at the end, this one would give you 7 extra points. There's some that give you powers, like this one gives you 2 extra towards your combat roll. It adds 2 to your combat roll when you're in combat. So some treasure cards, there's other ones. I'm not going to go over every one of them. Some, will be a surprise if you get the game. But you've got a few negative ones that are, cursed treasure, a few that are positive of different values, and then a few that give you some special powers. And that's why removing 3 at the beginning of the game unseen always leaves a little mystery of what treasures are actually available and in the treasure card pile. All right, well, let's talk about actually, oh, well, we didn't finish. So let's go back to where the captain chooses which dice he's going to use, and then out of his 3 cards, he picks one that he's going to play and puts it face down, and he chooses how he's going to lay the dice out, one morning and one evening. Then each of the other players, after they know what the dice are, which one's going to be morning and which one's going to be evening, they'll pick a card from their hand and put it face down, because that's the card they want to play. And then starting with the captain, he'll reveal his card, and he'll take his morning and evening action. Then the next player in turn order will reveal their card, and they'll take their morning and evening action, again according to the dice that are there. And finally, the last player or the next player will reveal their card and take their morning and evening action. Now those cards are left there in a discard pile. Once everybody's taken their action, everybody draws one more card into their hand, so everyone will always have 3 cards. Then the compass is passed to the next player to the left, along with the action dice, and then they'll roll the dice and decide how they want to place them for the morning and evening action and pick their card. And then each player will pick the card they're going to play, and that's how the game goes. And basically the game is a race, so players will keep taking turns until one player crosses back into Port Royal. And then once you get there, you'll stop. If you have any remaining evening action left, it won't happen. You just ignore it. Then you finish that round. Whichever players haven't finished taking their turn that round get to complete their turns, and then you score. And the scores are the amount from the space you're on when the game ends. So anybody that's in Port Royal would get 15 points. The further back you are, you have less point. And if you're back past this point, you actually get -5 points. So you get your score from where you are on the board when the round ends where somebody's reached Port Royal. Add that to any doubloons you have in your hold, and then add that to any treasure cards, both positive, and you got to subtract if you have negative cards, and the person who has the higher score at that point wins the game of Jamaica. So that's it. It's pretty simple. Why don't we go through a few sample turns and then wrap it up. Alright, so I've got the game reset. Everybody got their hand of 3 cards. I've got blue player as captain first. He's got the compass. Everybody just has 3 food and 3 doubloons in their holds. So old Samuel Bellamy, he's going to roll the dice. He got a 5 and a 4. So he's going to look at what cards he has. And he doesn't really have any movement cards. So he wants to get a lot of gold. So he says, okay, I'm gonna, since it really doesn't matter, since both his are loading gold, it's not going to matter. What did I have? 5 and a 4. So it doesn't really matter which one he picks as a morning action or an evening to him, but to these other players, it might. So over here, and Bonnie, we'll say, she knows her morning action is going to be a 4, so she move 1, 2, 3, 4. She likes that, so she'll get a treasure, and then she could either load 5 food or move 5 forward again. So she chooses she's going to play this card. And John Rackham, he doesn't want to move backwards, so he doesn't want to use that. Maybe he thinks he needs some food, so he chooses this card. So, alright, so everybody says they've chosen their card. Blue reveals his first. So he's got a morning action of load 4 gold. So he'll take 1, 2, 3, 4. He has to put them in an empty hold. And then he has an evening action of load 5 gold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, those have to go in an empty hold. So that's the end of his turn. So now we go to the next player. She reveals her card. So her morning action is a move forward. So she's going to move forward 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That puts her on this treasure space. So she gets to draw a treasure card, keep that secret. Oh, well, she likes that, so she puts that. She doesn't tell anybody what it is, just puts it face down. Now she has to do her evening action, which is to load food, and that's 5. So she's got to load 5 food. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, it's got to go into an empty hold space. Alright, and now John Rackham reveals his card. Well, he got a load food, so he's got to load 4 food. So he loads this 4 food into an empty hold space, and then he's also loading gunpowder, and he's got to load 5 gunpowder. So he's got his 5 gunpowder, and again, has to be loaded into an empty hold space. Alright, that ends the round, so everybody draws another card back into their hand. Pass the compass to the player on your left, so that goes to Ann Bonnie, and then she gets the 2 action dice. Alright, so Ann will roll the dice. She got a 6 and a 1, so she's going to look at her cards and see what she's going to want to do. Now she moves forward 6. Now when you get 20 splits, you can go either way, so she could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in which case she'll have to pay 3 gold, or she can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in which place she'll have to play 3 food, or she could play this one where she goes backwards, but she doesn't really want to do that, or she could just move forward 1 if she played the 1 first, but she got to pay 5 gold if she does that. Or she could load 1 gunpowder and 6 gold, or she could load 6 gold and 1 gunpowder, depending on what she wants to do. So we'll say she is going to, well, she's going to move 2 forward. Alright, she's going to play, them 6 and 1, and then she says she's going to play this card. Well, of course, it's face down. So then the other players decide, they know their morning action is going to be a 6 and their evening action is going to be a 1. So they got to decide what they want to do. So we'll just say John Rackham picks that. And we'll say, what does, he doesn't have, alright, we'll just say Sam Bellamy picks that. Alright, so Anne reveals her card. Alright, she's got a morning action of move forward 6, so she's going to go this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She's got to pay 3 food. She'll just take it out of this hold to empty that. Pays it to the bank. And then she has her evening action of a move forward 1. So she goes here, gets another treasure. Gets to draw another treasure card. That one is going to give her +2 in combats. She'll keep that hidden for now. Actually, you got to put those face up next to your hold. So she'll put that face up there. And that is going to be her turn. And John Rackham will reveal his card, and he got a morning of move forward 6. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now he's got to pay 5 gold. Well, he only has 3, so he has to pay it, and then he's got to go backwards until he gets to a space that he can pay. Well, he goes back to 3. He doesn't have any gold. He can't pay that. So then he goes back to this free space, which costs nothing. So that's all he has to do there. Then he has another move forward 1, which does him no good because he has to pay 3 gold, and he doesn't have it, so he has to go back again back there. So really that wasn't very good planning with John Rackham, but I was just trying to hurry up and pick a card for him. And then finally we get to Samuel Bellamy. He's got to load 6 food. His morning action is load food, so he's got to load 6. So we got that. Put it here. He doesn't have any empty holds left. His next action is to move forward, and the evening action is just a 1, so he just moves forward 1, which costs him 2 food. So he'll take it out of this one, pay that to the bank, and that's his evening action, which that's going to end the round. So everybody will draw another card into their hand. I don't know why I have hers down and everybody else is up. But then the compass passes to John Rackham, and he gets the action dice. So we'll do one more. John Rackham's turn. Alright, he rolls the action dice. He got a 5 and a 6. So let's see what he might want to do. Let's see if we can pick a little better for him. Well, he might like to get a lot of gold. He definitely doesn't want to move back 5 or 6. He may want to move forward. Let's see if he moves forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He'll get a treasure. Wait a minute. No, and Bonnie got the treasure from there, so that one's pretty good for him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if he picks his 5 to be his morning action, and then load. So he's going to do that. So he's going to do a 5 and a 6, and he's going to pick this to be his card. All right, so everybody else knows it's 5 and a 6, so they got to choose their cards. So I don't know what this is going to be. We'll just say Samuel Bellamy's going to choose this one, and I'm just going to randomly pick one for Anne Bonny, and we'll just see what happens. Of course, you would really pick what's going to be good for you. All right, So then John Rackham reveals, alright, his morning action is going to be move forward 5. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's going to get a treasure. So he draws a card. He got a +5. Now that he'll want to keep face down because he doesn't want people to know that he got +5. Alright, then he's got to do his evening action, which is to load 6 gunpowder. So he'll put that in an empty hold. He's got a lot of gunpowder. If he ever gets in a battle, he'll probably do pretty good. Alright, now we go to Samuel Bellamy. Let's see what he did. His morning action is a move forward 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, or either way, he's going to have to pay 5 gold. So he'll pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then his evening action is a load food. So he's got to load 6 food. And so he'll load this. Now he doesn't really have that. I forgot to remove that when I was resetting up the game. So let me shuffle that into the treasures. And you'll see his holds are all now full. So if he does another loading action in the future and he hasn't spent some, where he's emptied one of those holds out, he'll have to replace something from one of those holds. Anyway, we still have Anne Bonny's turn. Alright, she got a load of gunpowder. She's got a load 5. Alright, so there's her 5 gunpowder. She'll put it in this hold. And then she did a load gold of 6. So there's her 6 gold, and she'll load that there. And that is going to end the round. So again, everybody would draw a card into their hand. If your deck ever runs out, then you shuffle your discard pile and just make a new draw pile. And then pass the compass and the action dice. And anyway, round and round you go until somebody gets to Port Royal. We'll just give an example. Say on this next turn, John Bellamy decided he was going to play this gold and this card, and I don't know. He had 4 and 4, so he's got to load 4 gold. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, he's got no empty holds. You can't replace the same type of item that you're going to load, so he's got to remove something from one of these other holds. Since this one only has 1 food, he would probably choose that one, load his 4 gold there, and then this food would have to go back to the bank. He couldn't have chosen to remove one of the gold piles, since that was the same type of item he was loading. But that's it. That's how you play Jamaica. Like I said, we played this. My older daughter was in town. My wife and my older daughter and I played it. I think it's fun. I hadn't played this since, I think the last time I played it was 2017. I think there's some kind of, I'm pretty sure there's an expansion out for it. I don't have it, but I like the game. It's a good, kind of easy family game. It doesn't take too long. The only thing I'll say that I don't like, at least in this version that I have, is the rules, because they kind of fold out, so that's like set up. But then if you want to read the rules, you kind of have to unfold this thing. And I think they were trying to go for like a treasure map looking thing, but you got to unfold, and it's just kind of unwieldy and hard to read. So you read this part first, then this part, then this part, then this. But anyway, and then you can't like flip back and forth and look for stuff. Luckily it's easy and you don't really have to do too much flipping back and forth. But I think it came with like instructions in like 5 or 6 different languages, all in this same format. But anyway, that's it. I just wanted to do a quick video on this game since I just played it. I enjoy it. Thanks for watching.